What's up YouTube? Got another video for you today, and since it is daytime right now, I am going to be filming in here in the glorious shed. And today's video is just going to be on a new ashtray that I purchased for $5 off of eBay with free shipping. So that's always fun when you can get free shipping on something that inexpensive, and it's just a amber glass ashtray. Now, if I had to date this, judging from the quality of construction of the glass and shit like that, I would honestly have to say this was made sometime in the 1960s. I don't think it's as old as the 1950s, though it could be. But I would say either late 1960s, early 1970s, because this is, or was, rather quite popular. And I did think that actually this thing had a chip in it. However, that is just a little defect in the glass from casting, or not casting, when they blew the glass, or however the fuck they, make these old school style ashtrays. But again, this is a rather old ashtray, but again, I'm guessing it's from around the mid to late 1960s if I had to guess, just judging from the color of the amber ashtray. However, this is now going to be the ashtray that I use out here whenever I am filming. So when I am like ashing a cigarette out in this location, you guys will know that it is this ashtray, and that is specifically why I purchased this ashtray, is so I could have another ashtray to use out here, because I didn't really feel like taking my German beer company ashtray from the 70s and leaving it out here in the heat, in the cold, and stuff like that. Like this, again, it was $5. So I'm not really that worried about it, and plus it's in really good condition, so it should be able to withstand, moderately hot and moderately cold. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and light up a cigarette. And also, I do believe this is now the smallest ashtray I have, because granted, the green German beer company ashtray from the 1970s, I think the center of it is the same size. It has, like the little edges come out a good bit and actually make it wind up being bigger, whereas this, it's just a little tiny ashtray. So, but anyway, we're gonna go ahead and light up a Lucky Strike cigarette. And just to let you guys know, I will be swinging by my tobacco store tomorrow and talking to the employee who is the one who normally orders different types of non-filtered cigarettes for me. And again, just checking up and seeing when exactly I should expect to get the Pall Mall non-filtered, because I really, really want to review those for the channel and try them, because I have never even tried Pall Mall non-filters. But anyway, and if you're wondering why I'm using this pack, not using, my cigarette case, well, I currently am working on my cigarette case. It's not broken, it's nothing like that. I'm just doing a little bit more engraving on the inside. So I had to remove all the cigarettes out of it that I had in it so I could start engraving on it. So that's why there's no cigarettes in my cigarettes in my ashtray. Cigarettes in my cigarette case right now. Yeah, I'm gonna pack this over here. Alrighty, that's good. That's good enough. We're gonna go ahead and get this cigarette lit up. And actually, it might help if I get a little closer to the camera. So I've been sitting kind of far away from my camera whenever I'm filming out here. And then I can also, reach my ashtray. But yeah, and that's the thing. I really wish more companies still made ashtrays in America, but again, because of how few people smoke nowadays. There really isn't any, you know, companies, at least in America, major companies that are still making ashtrays. Now there are, like, you know, the little portable cup holder ashtrays, because even car manufacturers don't put ashtrays in their cars anymore. But even into the 90s, even early 2000s possibly, I think a lot of cars had ashtrays in them, like the 1994 Jeep Grand Cherokee that I drove for a while. Even that had ashtrays in it. A very good cigarette. Indeed. And again, let me know in the comments and shit like that, guys, what age you would put on that ashtray. Again, that ashtray could even possibly be from the late 50s. I really don't know. I would rather say it's newer than claim it's much older than it actually is. But that's normally what I do with any vintage or antique item that I get. I would rather date it being newer than date it being older than it actually is. So, but again, if I had to guess, it's 1960s at some point. But it doesn't really look early 1960s to me. However, that is the one thing that I like more so about my plastic Zippo ashtray. And amazingly with that plastic, I don't know if they use some kind of, whenever Zippo had those ashtrays made, I don't know if they used any sort of fire retardant plastic or if that's even a thing. But like, there is no melting spots on that whatsoever. Like when you put your the cherry out on your cigarette butt, stuff like that, it's never had any issues with it melting, anything like that. So whatever plastic they used is actually surprisingly high quality. And again, it is a made in USA ashtray, which is part of the reason why I got it. But the main thing that I like about that ashtray is how big it is, because you can fit a lot of cigarette butts in it before you have to dump the ashtray out. Like with this ashtray, like literally I could maybe fit one pack of cigarette butts in it and then I'd have to dump it out. But with that one, I can fit tons of cigarette butts in it before I actually have to take it down in the woods and dump it out, or dump it into a trash can or what have you. Normally I just dump them in the woods on my property because I don't want to be dumping anything that could potentially still have embers in it into a trash can. Because that would be a recipe for disaster. But, yeah, very, very good cigarette. Again, as y'all know, Lucky Strikes Unfiltereds are my absolute favorite cigarette right now. But who knows? Once I try Pall Malls, I might really enjoy those even more, though I highly doubt it, because I really enjoy the toasted flavor that you get from a Lucky Strike cigarette, because there is no flavor like that in any other cigarette in America today other than Lucky Strike. So, but again, the only Lucky Strike cigarette you're going to be getting this flavor from is the unfiltered soft packs, because they no longer have the toasted flavor with the Lucky Strike Reds or the Lucky Strike Filtereds at all. Though back in the day, at least from what I understand from Nick the Smoker, back in like the early 2000s, before the FDA took control of like the cigarette market in America, the filtered Lucky Strikes were basically these cigarettes with a filter on them, which I really would want to try, honestly. And I know in Europe, they still offer like the Lucky Strike Red European cigarettes and stuff like that. They actually do have that toasted flavor on them. And another thing I wanted to talk about in this video is yesterday, or late, actually early this morning, when I was filming my previous video, I got a comment talking about is there any difference in like Lucky Strike Reds or Marlboro Reds in like the Netherlands or Germany versus the Lucky Strikes Reds or the Marlboro Reds in the United States, and there is. There's actually a noticeable difference in those, because in the European Union they have much tighter regulations on tobacco than they even had here, even though unfortunately they Congress and stuff, like I also mentioned in my previous video, is really looking forward to tightening down on tobacco even more, which irritates the piss out of me. But the differences in a European cigarette versus an American cigarette is, again, they actually do list the tar and nicotine content, which they don't advertise or put on packs of cigarettes in the United States anymore, for whatever damn reason. But again, there is limits to how much you can put in a cigarette of nicotine and tar in the European Union versus the United States. So overall, their cigarettes over there are going to be much lighter flavored, or really not much lighter, but just a little bit lighter flavor and in body and in general versus a United States cigarette. And he also mentioned that over in Europe, at least in his country, cigarette smokers are treated like shit by the government. Well, I mean, that basically is any government in the Western world at this point treats their cigarette smokers like shit. But and he also mentioned because they want them to quit, which, I mean, almost every government, again, in the Western world wants people not to be smoking anymore, is drooling at the fact that maybe one day they can ban cigarettes altogether, despite not realizing the history of prohibition with alcohol in the 20s and 30s in America. I'm going to go ahead and light up another cigarette because I still want to talk on this topic a little bit more. But like he said, over there, the taxes are ridiculously high. Like, they keep raising and raising the tax on tobacco in Europe, and the same goes for like Zippo Fanatic over in Canada. I know he mentioned several times that the tax on cigarettes over there is quite high compared to the United States, again, because like I said, not like, honestly, again, like the tobacco store I get these from and the person who sells them to me is probably like the cheapest that you can get these in America, period, because I've never actually heard from anyone else. And actually, if any of you guys have any tobacco stores in your area that sell these to you for really cheap, let me know in the comments. Don't tell me, you know, where or what person is selling them, because again, technically they're not supposed to, so that's why I never mention the tobacco store that I go to and stuff like that, because again, protecting the people who actually work there. But I find it funny, you know, tobacco prices in Europe versus tobacco prices in America, where the tax is still quite low. Though again, under this current administration, I don't know how long that is actually going to last anymore, because I'm sure, again, and hell, even the previous administration, I'm sure if a bill came across the president's desk that we had before the current president, they probably would have signed it into law to raise the tobacco tax. But luckily, the only thing that he actually signed was just raising the smoking age, which again really isn't going to stop anyone from getting cigarettes. If they really want them, they'll just find someone who's 21 to get it for them. So again, raising the smoking age has virtually done nothing, if you want my honest opinion. And that's the thing that also I found weird, is because like my father mentioned, oh well, the reason why they're doing that is because you know, certain people who are in between the age of 18 and 21 you know, shouldn't be smoking. And I'm like, well, yeah, but because I mean, some of them are quite immature, but at the same time, once you are 18, if you are of legal age to join the military and you are of legal age to consent to sex and other things like that, then I believe that you should have the right to smoke a cigarette if you want. But again, our government says otherwise. And that really irritates me. So I also believe in most other Western countries, the age of the legal smoking age, like let's say Germany and stuff like that, is 18 and isn't 21. So again, at the end of the day, it's just all government bullshit, if you want my honest opinion. But that's also why I don't see the government anytime soon, at least, full-on banning cigarettes, because the government gets tax money from that. Now, I could see them, in order to try to get people to quit smoking, eventually raising the tobacco tax federally. Now, when that will happen, again, I don't know, because I don't follow it too insanely closely. However, again, like in America, it varies from state to state. So like states like Illinois and stuff like that, in Cook County, you're going to be paying a lot of money for a pack of these, versus like, again, in my state, where the normal price for one of these is about $9.99 a pack. Granted, I get them for less than that, but in my case, I have a rare case, so. But other places like Massachusetts and stuff like that, where they literally tax cigarettes out the asshole. Like literally, my friend who lives up in Massachusetts told me that the price he has to pay for a pack of these, if he wanted to buy a pack of these, is going to be about 20 bucks. And I was like, holy shit. So literally, on top of the federal tax with everything and the fact that this is a premium cigarette, they tax it $10 more on top of that for a pack of those. And he also said there's not many places that actually sell those up there, so. Which would also be the case here in my town. However, I do know in Hickory, North Carolina, which is where I have to go for my diabetic doctor's appointments, endocrinology, shit like that. There is actually a little gas station, which quite surprised me, because I didn't know that in North Carolina there were some places that gas stations actually sell these. That I did see when I was checking out a pack or two of these on the shelf, but the price tag again was like, I think $9.97 or something before sales tax. But yeah. But again, as I said earlier, it's all, at the end of the day, just government bullshit trying to regulate your life, in my opinion. But again, I don't believe that, we should go back to the 1940s and 1950s when 13-year-olds could go into a tobacco store and buy a pack of cigarettes, because again, back during those days, people didn't know just how bad cigarettes actually were for your health and the longevity of your life, stuff like that. But again, I feel once you're old enough to actually join the military, you should be old enough to actually decide to smoke a cigarette if you so choose. But again, different states, like even my state of Virginia, raised the smoking age to 21 about a year and a half earlier than the federal government, or maybe not even a year and a half. It was probably more like 9 months to a year prior. But I definitely remember when they actually raised the smoking age, because the local grocery store I went to when I lived in Virginia before we moved, literally, I think it was like effective June 1st or July 1st of that year, they were like, you now must be 21 years old to purchase cigarettes from here. But the funny thing is in South Hill, which is right almost on the border of North Carolina, but it's on the Virginian side of the border. Again, because statewide they raised the smoking age to 21, I went in there and bought a pack of cigarettes, and at that time, again, it was Marlboro Reds, and they sold to me, and they ID'd me, the person in there. Now, they didn't have one of those little devices that they scan your ID or anything like that, because I know in North Carolina, once they raised the smoking age, there was a little gas station down the road from where I lived in Boone, and when I went there and tried to buy a pack of cigarettes, they almost sold to me, but they were like, okay, can I see your ID? And they were like, okay, and then they had this little thing that scans the barcode on your ID, and it kept declining it, and they were like, oh, well, that's because you're not 21. So, and that's the thing, if they hadn't scanned that barcode and they just went from looking at my ID, they probably would have just sold to me. But at the gas station in South Hill, they never had that little scanning device for scanning IDs. So again, they were just willing to sell to me. But again, and that's honestly at the end of the day, what makes the difference is whether the actual person there is willing to sell to you or not. But again, in my opinion, I just find it such bullshit that the government decides to raise the smoking age to 21 without a grandfather clause. So that way people like me who have been smoking well over a year before that federal law went into effect, oh, well, you're just screwed and you're not going to be able to get cigarettes. Like that, again, that really pissed me off. Granted, I'm not really that upset about it anymore, just because literally I'm going to be 21 in like another month or two, but still. For those people who were had just turned 18 like a month prior to that bill being signed, and then it got signed, or like a week prior to that bill being signed, they could only buy cigarettes for a week legally, and then, oh, well, now you're screwed again for 3 more years. Like, it's, again, it's just stupid, in my opinion. But, yeah, as you guys can see, this ashtray is not going to be able to hold nearly as much as the Zippo lighter ashtray that I have over there at my other filming location. I'm in the carport, but you know. Actually, y'all, today it is actually a very, very, very beautiful day outside. In fact, I mean, it's quite sunny. However, the fall weather is starting to kick in. Because like right now, and the way that the wind is blowing, the breeze is actually blowing in here a little bit, which is actually keeping it quite cool in here, which normally it's actually quite hot in this area. But it's really enjoyable weather right now. I think I'm going to take 2 more hits off this cigarette maybe, and then end the video, because this video is 26 minutes long now. But yeah. I actually did get tobacco in the back of my throat that last drag, so I think I'm going to end this video here. If you like the video, like, share, comment, subscribe. Anything you do helps, and I'll see you in the next video.